Recording. Recording locally. And ready. You ready, Coffee?
I'm so ready.
Let's do this. Episode 16 of the Jules and Coffee Hour begins in 3, 2, 1. You're listening to the Jules and Coffee Hour, sharing the stories of Blizzard gamers around the world. Pull up a chair. We're glad you're here. Welcome to episode 16 of the Who am I? The Jules and Coffee Hour.
Who are you even?
Wow. Wow. That's the first time I've biffed that opening, and it won't be the last. I am Jules.
And I'm Coffee, and all I want you to do is show me the money!
Holy crap. Your microphone might be a little hot today, dude. Like smoking hot.
Really? Wow.
That was awesome, though. I want to show me the money. That is one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite movies, actually. Yeah. Like that whole. I don't know what it is. I haven't seen it in ages. But that scene about show me the money.
So good.
May have inspired this topic. May have not. I don't know. I was just thinking about it today. Okay, I'll tell you this. The topic we talked about is going to be money. We're going to talk about finances. We're going to talk about our version of what we view as finances. Managing money, our philosophies, what we've learned, what we've screwed up in life. But it got inspired to me by talking to a coworker about money. So that's how we got to this point. But hey, Coffee, how are you? Otherwise, with life.
Yeah, I'm doing good. It's like, it's funny we're talking about money right now because it's tax season and I'm getting all my tax documents in order, and that stresses me out. And I'm going to be traveling for work next week, and like I'm prepping for that, and that's a little stressful, but I'm managing to get in streams. I got a stream in yesterday, I got a stream in today, and I'm just still working on balance. That's the whole thing for this year. So yeah,
I think that's actually a really good. Can we do that? Can we do like a 5-minute check-in on our New Year's resolution of like the word of the year or of our year, because like balance. I think that I'm totally doing. I'm throwing an audible here. Good.
Nice.
I'm feeling really good. So so if you guys don't remember, if you hadn't listened to these episodes back around the New Year, Coffee and I picked a word that is going to be our mantra, our focus of the year. And mine was rebuild and Coffee's was balance. So those were the two that we've kind of like, and I've never actually done this like more than just a resolution of like, hey, I want to like lose weight or I want to exercise more. Like I've never done a themed word.
No, this is the first time for me too. So it's good, and I think it's a great idea if we just check in with each other about our words from now and again, to see how we're doing.
So, I mean, mine was about rebuilding, and that was rebuilding my financial security, my sense of self, and kind of my own identity as a content creator. So kind of a 3-month check-in, because we're at the mid part of March now. Like everything that was bad in terms of my financial situation is good now. Like to the point that I could actually plan to go take a brief vacation to Vegas, a place where there is going to be a lot of money being spent if I wanted to. I'm incapable of like going all whole hog. I'm just incapable of doing it. But I feel comfortable enough like buying a plane ticket, buying a hotel room, going with a friend of mine so we're rooming together, which is going to make things easier for pricing. But like first time in 6 years, dude, that I'm going on a vacation that isn't like I'm going to a con and doing like work there. So that amazing. Part, check. The other part that I am really working on right now, which I'm still in progress on, very much so, is to rebuild my my physical appearance, I guess. And that for me means to be more focused on on weight loss and being more comfortable in my own skin. So for the last 2 weeks now, I've been on Weight Watchers, which has been hard, difficult. But productive very slowly, which is what I expected. Tomorrow I weigh in after this would be my 2-week weigh in, and I'm expecting that I may be like maybe down 1 more pound. It might be like a half a pound, but it's not going up,
Right.
which is what was happening before. And what it has done, and it has changed my eating habits. It's made me more conscientious of what I'm eating and making choices that are more mindful. It's Girl Scout cookie season right now. And so like when we had the Lashes cookie party stuff going on, right? And I bought 4 boxes of cookies because you had to buy them in order for them to be, you had to buy at least 4 to get them to be shipped to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that like the day before I started Weight Watchers. And so like they arrived here and I'm like, oh shit.
Oh dear.
Because 1 cookie is 3 points. And yeah,
yeah.
Like your face just dropped.
Wow.
1 cookie is 3 points. The samosas, the samosas.
Those are the ones that we bought too.
Samoas.
Yep.
And 3 points. So I was like, I can't do this. When you only get like 20 some odd points in a day, that's painful. And so I brought them to work and I gave them to my coworkers, and they were like, "We love you," and I was like, "Thank you for taking these off my hands." Like, one of my coworkers took 2 boxes. She's a marketer. She goes and she like meets with these commercial clients, and I'm like, "Here, bring treats. You go bring them treats. There you go."
Well played. Very well played.
Yeah, but so that is. I can't believe I said samosas. Sorry, guys. I was like,
samosas. Isn't that like
that is a fried food?
That's a fried like Indian kind of thing. Right?
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
I'm tired today.
Good.
It is very good.
I think I'm hungry. I think I just realized I'm hungry.
I am too. So that's my brief. I can go into this like for an hour, but it's my brief check-in on Rebuild. How's balance coming?
It's coming along. I'm not where I'd like to be. I really need to work in some exercise. I would love to work in some exercise into my schedule, but I feel like these weeks especially are just kind of super hectic and crazy, and I'm doing a good job staying grounded, not getting stressed out. I'm positioning myself for success, and I think I will get through the next couple weeks, but I'm allotting time for each thing, scheduling ahead of time. So far so good. We'll have to check back in next week and see where I am, but so far so good.
Tell me a little bit more about the scheduling thing. Like how are you feeling like with that? Because that's hasn't been something that you've wanted or really felt like you wanted to do.
Yeah, so I've been hesitant to use my Outlook calendar for scheduling kind of everything, like all of my worlds in one place, because Outlook, you can make yourself like a private calendar, but I know that in the field I'm in, people can easily go in and like look at your calendar, and I've always typically kept my lives very separate from each other, and I've just sort of like, part of this balance, I think, for me is realizing that it's okay to blur the lines a little bit. I'm letting my world seep into each other a little bit. So I'm using my Outlook calendar not just for work meetings, but also tentative stream scheduling. I'm putting when I'm going to be streaming to the HeroesHearth channel on there as soon as I know, and I'm putting when I'm meeting with our accountant and when I have to go in to meet with my agent and things like that. And that is helping just to be able to glance at that before the week even starts and see what's lined up. Yeah. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and if anyone from work really cares about like what I'm doing, sure, you can go onto my Outlook calendar and see that I'm streaming for like 3 hours from this time to this time, and good on you. Hope you stop by. But it's like little things like that are gonna keep me sane, I think.
Oops, Starbell. Sorry, that's an Amazon package.
Oh,
I don't know if you heard that.
Do you need to get that?
No, they're just dropping off an Amazon package, which came late today. Sorry.
Are you sure it's not Postmates and they're delivering Dunkin' Donuts and or Chipotle?
Hi, hello, Weight Watchers. I wish.
God damn.
I wish right now, man. Oh, so anyway,
Wait, is there
For
a
real.
like a Chipotle? Like, is there something on the Weight Watchers website where you can eat Chipotle or no?
I mean, I can. I
Someone
could eat
told me. Someone
exactly.
told me like there's a meal, or you could get like a burrito bowl at Chipotle that's X amount of points, and it's like a low point value on Weight Watchers or
Yeah,
something like
you
that. Yeah.
can do it. Like you can figure it out.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things like I could have the normal bowl that I would normally eat. I just have to make sure that I make the choices around it or plan for it because you
Mm,
get like this X number of points a day and then you get this bank of points that are extras for the week. And then
okay.
you spend them like a bank account, which lo and
Oddly
behold,
enough,
we are
relates
talking
to what we're talking
we're
about.
talking to the to this topic of budgeting
Yeah.
and financial. So yeah, I mean I'm just gonna play the sounder because we're jumping right into it. It's
Yeah. Let's
perfect.
do it.
It's time for the topic of the week. The
Yes, it
topic of the
is.
week is finances, money, how we handle it, what we've learned about it, and what we've learned about ourselves. Coffee, are you someone that you consider good with money?
I think I am, and I think that just is because I've had a lot of practice.
Mm-hmm.
I've made mistakes in the past and learned from them and turned things around, and I also feel like I've had a pretty lucky go of it, just in terms of I did not pay to go to college, right? I
Mm-hmm.
I just so I don't have debt. I don't have college debt. I have a mortgage, but aside from that, I don't really have too many investments or things like that. So I think it's easier to be better with money when you don't have things like college debt, you know. But
Sure, sure. And the thing about when I ask is are you good with money is that I mean, if you talk to anybody in your circles, people that you know, you're going to find a range of knowledge bases and experience with money. And there's some people that'll say to you, I'm terrible with money. It just,
mhm,
it's like water. It runs right through my fingers. I have it and I spend it. And there are others that are like, hey, I've got, this much saved and I'm able to go on vacations when I plan to. And we're all different. We're all different. And money is one of those things that I don't think we talk about a lot in our social circles because
could be
it can be
awkward
such a
or
dividing and awkward. Yeah,
yeah.
awkward's a great term. Um, and I find it very interesting when we do talk about it. And I've done this on a podcast in the past, talking about how I've learned theories about money and money management. Um, so I'm just curious in the chat room as we're talking, would you guys consider yourself good or bad with money in general? You feel like it's something that you struggle with or something that you've got a good handle on? So we'll ask you guys as we go through and see what you say.
One of the reasons I
So,
felt like I had to practice money management, though, is because when my wife and I got together, she straight out told me, I'm bad with money. You're going to have
mm-hmm,
to handle a lot of the financials. And
mm-hmm,
I started practicing like from then forward. And we started dating in college, which I think is a point in people's lives where they can start to get into bad habits, especially with money management and things like that. So it was cool that we
mm-hmm.
were able to kind of practice together and grow um, from that point forward. And we're not, and rather than a relationship that sort of has to like start later on in life, think back and try to correct a lot of the possible mistakes and things like that. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but also I don't particularly enjoy spending money on myself. So
Really?
yeah, so it's not like yeah, I don't get excited to spend money on something for me. I get kind of excited to
Mm-hmm.
spend money on other people more
Mm-hmm.
so.
Mm-hmm.
So because I don't spend money on myself, it's another way that I don't find myself into bad habits. Find myself getting into bad habits very often with money.
Yeah. Do you think that when you were growing up that you were given a good foundation of understanding of how to manage your own money or was that something you just had to kind of learn by mistakes?
I mean, not really. as if my parents are listening, I apologize, but my parents were in severe debt when I was growing up, and
Yeah.
they had many credit cards, and um, I didn't fully understand money at the time, but I knew that they were very upset at each other, stressed out about their debt, all these credit cards that would be declined sometimes, and I'd watch them cut certain cards up, when they were maxed out, and all
Hmm.
kinds of kind of bad examples like that. But then I also, later on in life, maybe in high school periods of time, I saw them start to rebuild from that
Yep.
debt, and I watched them start working together, make a financial plan, and see how they could come back from living that way early on. They've never been
Yeah.
they've never been a couple to have a lot of money. I mean, when I was growing up, my dad was a pizza delivery guy, and my mom was a bank teller, so there wasn't a ton of money to go around, but they made
Yep.
the most of what they had. And I think they just got into financial trouble early on because they were just living beyond their means from
Right.
with those two professions. And it was very cool and rewarding to see them come back from that in the later years of their lives. So, but
Yeah.
that sort of
Yeah.
set me up to practice good choices myself once I saw them rebuilding from mistakes they made previously.
It's funny because we kind of had, I mean, my parents were never like majorly in debt that I knew of. But when I was younger, I knew that we didn't have a lot of money. And because they made that very clear. I mean, here's my very logical sense. I remember very clearly where my parents would say, "We don't have the money for X." Like I'd say,
Mm-hmm.
"Could we do this? Could we go to McDonald's or something like that?" And they say, "We don't have the money." And I would literally see money in my dad's wallet and go, "I see it right there. Why are you saying that we don't have the money?"
Right.
It was that literal kid mind
Yeah.
realizing, and this is what happens, I think, a lot of
Well,
times that
that's
you
what
have
it's
that.
hard for a child to
Yeah.
understand that for that very reason. I think.
Right, because you really do think that if you have the money, you can spend it. And
Yeah.
you don't have a perception of what bills are and how much it costs for you to live. And my dad was working 3 jobs while my mom was staying home with my sister and I. And then eventually my mom became a babysitter for a lot of like teachers, children, and earning money that way. So my dad was working like 2, 3 jobs, and over time they built to be much more comfortable. And right now, like, I don't remember those days, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I never really had the education of learning how to manage money, except the fact that I always was told that, like, if I wanted to have extra money to spend, I had to work for it.
Mm-hmm.
So my parents never bought me a car. They never, that kind of thing. Like, they helped me pay for college, but I took out a lot of loans for college as well. And I remember distinctly, like, I would work every time I would come home from college, I would work a job. So I'd have, and I was very lucky because I'd built these relationships in summer jobs that I'd done where I could literally come back and work during my breaks. So like in winter break for 3 weeks, I could work.
Hmm.
And they would just pay me, which is awesome. And
Yeah.
so, but back then it was when I was in school, you'd get like the Columbia House postcards in the mail for getting CDs, and you'd
Oh,
wind up having to buy like 30 of them or some
yep.
shit. And I would be destroying my bank account on stuff
Oof.
that didn't matter,
Yeah.
right? So but I went to a college that was super rich, and a lot of my coworkers, my
Colleagues or
co colleagues, whatever, fellow students, they went and wound up um, having cars bought for them, and I didn't have a car on campus, that kind of thing. And so, right after I graduated, is when I moved to the Midwest, and I was dating a guy who was very mature about money, and he taught me right away that you only spend the money that you have. And so from the very get go, he said, "We will pay off this credit card every month."
mm-hmm.
every month. We'll never carry a balance on our credit card. And I was like, oh, okay. Because I really hadn't had a credit card before. Like that really didn't exist for me. And so I was like, it was like this moment where like the heavens opened and I was like, this makes so much sense. Like, why doesn't everybody do this?
Yeah.
Because
Well,
you can get right.
You can get rewards and things like that, but
Exactly.
that's the thing. Like when I was growing up, my parents treated credit cards because they had so many and they were all maxed out. They treated them like the plague, and
Yes, they
they
were afraid of them.
instilled this fear of credit cards in me. So it was very late in life that I actually got a credit card, which is kind of sad because I didn't start building my credit until late in life. But
Yeah.
that's just an example of they're not something to be afraid of. Credit cards work for you. You just have to use them as a tool instead of a crutch.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I as I'm going through this process with Weight Watchers and getting a points balance, like literally, dude, I could go and get Chipotle every single night and eat whatever, and nothing is going to come crashing down except that my weight is going to skyrocket up, right? But when you think about them in equal terms of budgeting and using your allotment with money, it's like, well, if you don't have it and you can't pay for it and you put yourself further in the hole, then then it's bankruptcy and no credit and, not able to pay your bills and not able to have a home and, bad stuff happening.
I got a buddy
And
from college who just maxed out several credit cards, ended up being bankrupt by, I want to say like 23, something like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
And I think just now his credit is starting to recover. Just
yeah.
now. So we're talking, almost 10 years later, right?
Jeez.
So it's just,
Yeah.
I think it's, people say that, I've heard people strategize about bankruptcy, about how if you're gonna go bankrupt when you're young, you get to keep all the stuff you bought, and then your credit will be recovered by the time you actually want to do something with it.
Mm.
That's not the way.
Mm.
It's not the way.
That gives me pain,
Yeah.
because what happens when you want a car? What happens? I mean, I had so when I was going through my divorce, I had to go into an apartment, and I had to move out of my house and get into an apartment. And they did a credit check on me to get an
Hmm.
apartment.
Oh yeah.
And I couldn't at that point, because I was an owner of the home. They made me get a cosigner at like 40 years old. My parents had to cosign for my lease for
Huh.
me to get into that lease. Now I have excellent credit. I have, but because I mean, that shit can make it so that you can't get the things that you want.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm very, very grateful that my parents came in, and I mean, they knew that I was very responsible with money and they would never have to worry about me defaulting on them purposefully.
Yeah.
But when you think about it from that perspective of saying, go bankrupt and it'll be like, I would never have been able to get that apartment.
Yeah.
I would, what happens if my car goes out and I need to get an auto loan or something? What would happen when I was trying to buy this condo that I live in right now, right? And so it was a really eye-opening experience when it came to credit and credit score and all of that kind of thing, like how impactful it is on you just having a life.
There are some places in
It's kind of
LA
crazy.
that check your credit when you're job hunting. And it's
Really?
legal in Los Angeles, I don't know, in other places, to deny someone a job based on their credit score. It's very it
Wow.
can affect so many different areas of your life that people aren't aware of.
It's
It's very
true.
serious.
It's true. And Lauren just said in the chat room, my parents almost signed over their business to me when I turned 18, so I would go bankrupt instead of them. That would have screwed me for life.
Wow.
I mean, this is the kind of thing that when you're young and starting out and you're and learning about money, and of a lot of our listeners range in age from from teens to 40s 50s, so we've all been in different parts of our lives when it comes to good credit, bad credit, and
Yeah.
financial spending. um but I can't tell you how helpful it has been for me as someone who kind of had somebody else in her life the whole time frame before now for like the, I had a partner. I had somebody there who was sharing the responsibility of managing the bills and everything of that nature until 3 years ago. And now I have basically needed to make sure that I can support myself solo.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I will tell you, there's the subreddit that's out there, which is personal finance, has saved my ass so many times. That subreddit, in terms of knowledge base and understanding of just all kinds of credit, financial, retirement funds, um, anything. And so it's reddit.com/r/personal finance. I was actually reviewing that today just to kind of look through some of the stuff because it was quiet at work. And it never ceases to amaze me how much people don't know about finances and
Yeah.
budgeting and good credit, and
Even just something
it
as basic
blows
as
my mind.
budgeting is
Budgeting,
something
yeah.
that they don't teach in school, usually.
No.
And it's one of the most important life lessons there is. You take your, just like seeing how much it costs you to live a month, and then assigning different funds to different categories or areas of your life, and how that all adds up to the end of the month is something that a lot of people are never taught to do, and it's so so important.
It's interesting because as gamers, we kind of live in a world where there's a lot of monetary things there's things for us to spend money on. A lot,
Oh yeah.
computers, games, tech toys, um, you know, Funko Pops, whatever. And ways that we can really just destroy our budgets
Hmm.
from, you know, and I laugh and I don't laugh when I watch people, like I'm throwing my wallet at the screen for,
Take
the
my
newest
money.
take my money, things
Take
like
my
that.
money.
And I've lived the last 6 months or so prior to now, before I got my new job, of just being at the very edge of my means because I wasn't making an income. I was on unemployment, which, eventually ended, which was a really scary time for me. Um, and just having those moments of living in our culture and seeing all the cool stuff that was coming out and knowing that I could not afford to spend money on it
Hmm.
was like, I can understand how easy it is to max out those credit cards just to have those that latest thing, you
Yeah.
know. It's and not to say that our hobbies and our interests are more expensive than anybody else's. I just feel like we almost have this pressure on ourselves to kind of keep up with the Joneses. If you do you see where I'm going?
Absolutely. I was just going to say, my parents wound up with such great debt, not because they were buying, you know, Mercedes, or like, new cars or massive TVs or things like that. They were just trying to keep up with their friends and their family
Yeah.
members. They were trying to go out to dinner with their friends because their friends invited them to dinner at a fancy place. They
Hmm.
weren't buying all kinds of toys and things for themselves. They were just kind of trying to maintain the lifestyle that they were familiar with and that the people around them were living. You know what I mean? They were just,
Yeah.
as you said, keeping up with the Joneses.
Yep. And one of the hardest things that happened recently in the last couple months, a couple of friends of mine asked me during Christmas time if I could come out to dinner with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I had just like things were bad. Things were real bad, and I had to tell them, I'm sorry, I can't afford to go out right now. And that is an absolute
Yeah.
horrific thing to have to do. And they said to me, we want to take you out, please. We just want to see you. Um, which of course was even more devastating because it was like, thank you for being so kind, but I hate that you even have to think about that. I
Yeah,
mean,
that puts you in a situation where you want to be involved and you want to, they're being so generous and you want to do that, but you can't like feel that, you don't want to, you don't want to be that burden on them, and it
Yeah.
puts you in a
Yeah.
maybe even worse situation because you don't want to
And
feel that.
Yeah, I'm so fiercely independent, and I hate to admit when I'm struggling or anything like that. Like, nobody really knew. Nobody knew how bad it was. I was doing this show, those months ago, and things were really bad. And, uh, stressed out to the absolute maximum. And it wasn't like I was even having, like I had an emergency fund. I had savings to kind of get me through for when things got really scary. But I think the fear for me and the scary part is because I am such a, I guess, responsible person, that the fear of running out of what I had saved was like, it was crippling. It was absolutely crippling, and I had to dig into it quite a bit in order to get through. I'm so happy to say at this point that I've been able to replenish it back up.
Yeah.
In like two months, which is amazing, because I was so used to living so leanly that I was able to just kind of
Right.
I was
Just
able to feed it right back in.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
When you
And
say
so,
savings, I mean, do you have a savings account? Do you have a 401k? I mean, what are some of the tactics you use just to save money? Where you put it? How do you accumulate it?
so this is something that I'm glad you brought it up, because this is something I need to do more with. In the past 9 years, I guess, 9 years, I haven't worked for a company that had a 401k or a savings plan, but in previous jobs I did.
Right.
And so
So it's somewhere.
I have numerous retirement accounts and savings accounts for retirement that have accumulated over time from previous jobs.
Got it.
But I haven't been very responsible in terms of saving for retirement in the last 9 years. And that is something I've been really mad at myself about, because like I worked for a company where they didn't have any benefits. And so I was just, kind of, I wasn't putting that money away like I should have. And I kept saying, I need to do it. I need to do it. And awesomely, even though I don't get any benefits now in this new job, they are just introducing a 401k with a company match.
That's
Um,
great.
so it's going to come in the next few months. So I think I get 3% of my salary gets matched if, and so
And then
at
it's
minimum.
usually the next 2% after that is like not matched, but they contribute like half or something if you like for the
Yeah,
next
for us,
5%.
because it's like we're a 7-person company, and my boss is literally just putting it together now, with Charles Schwab or something like that.
Yeah.
So he told us yesterday in our staff meeting that we're gonna get a 3% match on that, and I'm like, great. I'm just gonna toss that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna toss that right in there.
That's a no-brainer. 3%.
It is a no-brainer. It's free
Yep.
money in there too. But for 9 years now, I have worked without benefits.
Yeah.
And it makes it even more of a struggle, because I pay my own health insurance, and I've paid my own health insurance for the last 3 years, and I will continue to do so. So because it just literally hasn't been an option for me in the companies that I've worked for. You kind of try to negotiate your salary to be a little bit higher to compensate for it, but a lot of times that ain't even the case. I'm just
Right.
current position now. I have an opportunity to earn extra money based off a commission of things. Like, I have a base salary that's very good, and then I can earn money based off of commissions of things that I sell over the phone. And I should be getting quite a few opportunities. I made my first sale this week, which is amazing. Right?
Congratulations.
Right? I know. Um,
Wow.
so it's
I
nice
mean,
to
I'd
see
buy
that I
anything
have.
from you, to be honest with you.
Aw.
Hopefully you don't get me on the phone, because I will no longer be good with money after that phone call.
You need the exterior of your home painted? Because I got you.
I mean, yeah, sure.
I
Um,
mean, I know that.
I,
Yeah. So go
I was
ahead.
gonna ask you though. So now with your new 401k that you're gonna be starting up, um, are you gonna go back, get access to your old retirement plans, and put that money into your new fund?
that's the thing. Like, I wish I knew more, honestly. So right now I have retirement accounts in like 4 different places.
Yeah.
And it is a difficult thing to do, to consolidate everything and put it into one place, because it takes time, it takes
Yeah.
effort.
Yeah.
And I literally just look at it and go, I don't wanna. Like, dude,
You
it took
should
me.
try to, though. You should really
I
try to get
know,
it in
and
that one
I'm
place.
glad that you're saying this and you're calling me out on it, because I do. I literally need to just sit down and do it. The money is there and it's accessible to me in those like 4 different accounts of different companies. Like one of them,
Yeah.
one of like 2 of them are from 2 different companies. One of them's from another one, and I was like,
Here's my concern. Here's my concern, and this is, I've seen this happen before. Like, I knew this. Well, it happened to my mom too, but she worked at this company. She worked at this bank for so, like, many years ago. Amassed quite a large retirement plan in that bank. When she was let go from the bank, she had to move the money into an IRA.
okay,
So it was sitting in that IRA. But because she didn't access it for so long, she had a similar situation where she worked for many years after that with no benefits. When she tried to go back and access that IRA, different banks buy different banks, right? And this money, by the time she went back to get it, was just, it was gone,
oh
right? They
jeez,
just couldn't trace what bank had picked up her IRA. Like, she just doesn't know where it is at this point,
oh my god,
So it's, with you having so many different places where it could be, just consolidating it and making sure you have access to that one place would be so much safer than,
yeah, no, you're
going to
right.
different areas.
I think right now they exist in 2 main places, and I've had touch points with them because I had to change my name. Like
Oh,
when
right.
when I got divorced, I had to change my name. My legal name changed, and therefore
Yeah.
I had to get it all changed. So everything is changed over, and they're big organizations. Like one of them was Mattel.
Hmm.
So there's a big chunk of money in that from my 9 years working for a Mattel company. So, um, but it is something that I'd like to try to do. It's just, so raise your hand out there if finances just stress you out, and your knowledge base is just like, it feels like I'm trying to walk through mud, trying to, I can
Hmm.
figure it out, but like at one point I had a financial advisor who was talking to me about annuities and shit, and I'm like, I don't get it.
Yeah. No,
I'm
I'm
like,
the same. I don't claim to know. I'm not an expert for sure. I think I'm learning as I go, and
yeah.
it's something that fascinates me a little bit too. Different types of mutual funds and, investment packages and things like that. And my wife is sort of, that's kind of my role, I guess, is in the household, is to be in charge of finances and taxes and things like that. When we were getting our house, it was pretty much me that bought the house. Like, she, like, she was like, I like that house, right? And just make the money work, right? Make the loan work, right? So it's like, just after the first, like, yeah, I mean, I learned so much about money and banks and loans just from buying a house that,
Yeah.
it's hard to fall out of practice when you're working on so many good habits during that time period to make that work. Then you're
Mhm.
suddenly you're hyper focused on finances and things like that. So
So true, especially because I bought my condo completely on my own. And, when you go through that process of everything from start to finish, man, you come out on the other side feeling like you know the world. You just
yeah.
know it all. But in converse, I've never purchased a car. I've
Hmm.
never, like, the car that I own right now, it was purchased 17 years ago.
Oh,
And I
wow.
was married at the time. We purchased the car together new, and then it was signed over to me. I paid it off, and now I've owned the car for 17 years. And
Hmm.
so that's going to be an experience in itself when I'm like, "Oh my goodness, having to
That's
buy a
gonna be
car."
nothing
Like
compared to buying your condo. That's gonna be
that
nothing.
I hope so, because it scares the crap out of me. Because the negotiation process for buying a condo was
Oh,
not pretty. Like
yeah.
that was tough. I literally had to go, kind of dangle myself on the ledge for a bit to try to get the deal I wanted. So,
I mean, negotiation
and
is one thing. The thing that stresses me out is like, when you're dealing with certain amounts, you have to put X amount of money into escrow, right? It's like they're holding
yes,
on to money, and then
yes,
how much, uh, you know, how much of that goes towards the cost of the house versus how much of that goes to the escrow company. And then sometimes the seller doesn't want to pay state tax like for the previous
hmm
year, so you have to like pay the supplemental income tax. Like it's just, I mean, buying a house,
California's laws they sound pretty jacked, man.
it they California I think has some of the highest state tax in the country. I mean, it is just
Yeah.
obscene, but it was quite a process. And I by the time I was done, I told them, I hope you like this house because we're never moving. We're not buying another one.
I'm never doing this shit
We're not
again.
doing this again. But
So let me ask you about budgets. Do you have a certain technique that you use for budgeting?
um, so yes, I mean, so we discovered. I mean, we do this every time we move, essentially, but we discover how much money needs to be allocated to just the cost of us to live, and how
Right.
much we need to allocate to just recreation.
Right.
Um, and we usually don't pay for things on our bank cards. We'll typically pay on our credit cards. We each have one credit
Mhm.
card, and we completely pay that balance off every month,
Mhm.
or very close to it, to build interest and rewards points and things like that. And
Yeah.
we'll specifically use a certain card on things. We have like one card that's like a travel card, and like I think it's like 5% on all travel you get.
Mhm.
And then we have another card for like dinner, and it's like a dinner card. You get 5% for all nights out or things like that. And it's things like that.
Yeah.
But and we it's relatively easy to calculate your recreation because all of your recreation is on credit cards, right? Like
Yep.
it's anything on the card is considered um, a recreation cost because it wouldn't be on the
Mhm.
card, or you wouldn't have used it unless it was a recreation card. And then we look at all that and see if it's trending upward or downward, just kind of looking at statements,
Yep.
and we make adjustments based on that. But
Nice.
it's like it's honestly been easier to budget since we got a mortgage because we know how much the mortgage is, and it's like it's locked in. It's like when you're renting and you're moving from place to place, they raise your rent, or um, so many factors are at play that where you have to change your
Yeah.
budget. Whereas
Yep.
when you finally buy a place, you kind of lock something in and you get used to something, and any additional funds on top of that are just kind of icing on the cake that you throw in a savings account or what have you.
Yeah. Yeah, and it seems simple. It does seem simple, but we can easily just let things add up, especially in our lifestyle. The monthly fees like Netflix, and if you buy, like, I don't have cable anymore. I haven't had cable for 3 years.
Yeah,
Um so it was, buying Netflix and Hulu and Amazon shows.
we threw all that into the cost to live
Yeah,
fund.
yeah,
We throw
exactly.
in the internet and the cable and
Yeah.
food. We throw all that into like the cost to live. Yeah.
But it's amazing to think about when you break down the amount that you're spending, because I honestly do believe that there are a lot of people out there that just have no idea how much they're spending on certain things,
Yeah.
and or that they don't know how to save money because they're not taking into account what they're spending on money. And
Mm-hmm.
so the thing I'll see in the personal finance subreddit all the time is literally write down everything that you spend. Write down everything that you spend. And people are like, "Oh, I don't want to do that." Well, it's like, "Okay, great. I'm sorry that that's frustrating to you to do, but if you're not going to have a good sense of how much money you're spending on takeout every month, if
Right.
you're not adding it up and checking it out. And so, yeah, there was a guy so I was going through the subreddit today, and there was a guy who posted who said he had not filed taxes in 6 years. Your eyes just got wide, and that's exactly what mine did too. And he was freaking out because the IRS was coming for him, and he didn't know what to do. And he admitted, like, I have to man up and get out of my own ass and do this because I've avoided it for so long. But it's the same thing that I see with a lot of other people, which is literally like, if I just ignore the problem, it will go away.
Yeah.
If I throw money on those credit cards and they go into debt more and more and more, if I just pretend that they don't exist and I don't pretend that I don't have all that debt, then it doesn't exist, and I can't. And so, and it just, it's such a problem that, like, perpetuates itself in the scariest way for me. Like, I see this and I'm like, guys, you can't stop this. It doesn't stop. Like, if you're in debt, you stay in debt unless you do something about it. You cannot just magically, like, unless you go and buy a lottery ticket and boom, you are now rich. Which, how many times does that happen to many of us? No. But but it's just like, I'm it makes my heart hurt to know how many people out there are in some severe debt and they are afraid to do something about it.
Um, it's like funny you mentioned the IRS. Just in terms of like doing taxes, it kind of fascinates me how complicated taxes can be, and the way they just expect the average American to do that, like, every year.
Yes.
Kind of blows my mind. And also, taxes are such a good, I mean, without taxes, we wouldn't have a successful government. They're very important. But also, on the flip side, there were years of my life, recent years, honestly, where I wasn't making a ton of money, right? And I was living very small. I was struggling. I was like working as primarily just like an actor, right? From like one gig to another, like barely making anything.
Yeah.
Doing my taxes at the end of the year and finding that I owed them like thousands of additional dollars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, I don't know. The IRS, I don't know how, like, the way the system is, I feel like it's so easy to manipulate that somebody
Yep.
without a lot of knowledge, that's barely making any money, ends up paying a ton of extra money in taxes. Whereas somebody
Yeah.
who has a lot of money and knows a lot about money ends up paying not super, like, anything at all for taxes.
Yeah.
And it's really sort of unfair, but that's just my
It's
opinion.
super unfair. And the thing, I started going to an accountant last year for doing my taxes, which is the first time that I had ever really done that.
That was the first year I did it too. It was last year, and
Yeah,
I'm
last
going
year.
back this year.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, best $90 I ever spent to get my taxes done by this nice lady who knew everything that I did not.
Yeah.
And the thing about it that was so helpful for me is just like how much she knew. And she said to me, she literally just like looked me in the eye and she said, "They keep it hard for a reason.
Oh
They
yeah.
keep it difficult for a reason because it's hard for people to actually know and understand this, except for those of us who actually make it our profession, or it's our brains that work this way." And it's so true. I just looked at her and I said, "Amen, sister." Like, yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you know all of these things. For me, working from home, even though I was salaried, I could get these, I could write off this, write off that. It's so difficult. And
Yeah.
and I get it. I get why we are all fearful of taxes, fearful of the IRS, fearful of how much money it costs us to live. Um, we live in a society right now where it's getting harder and harder to live. Like, I could go on a massive rant about the amount that I pay in health insurance and how much I don't get from it,
Yeah. It's
you know?
insane.
And so but I'm not going to, because we're not going to go in a political
Don't
rant.
get me started on insurance of any kind.
No,
Yeah. It'll be an
yeah,
ugly conversation.
we'll go in the ugly place, and we don't want to go in the ugly place.
Yeah.
But I think about this as in terms of finances, and I think that the best thing that we can do for each other is to try to help each other, right? So that's why I shared the resource that I use a lot of times to try to help, and that's people
Finances
helping other
subreddit.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, personal finance subreddit is an amazing resource for pretty much anything that you would need related to finances. Because even at work yesterday, when we were talking about this IRA program, and then my boss got onto a rant about how personal like financial consultants and financial planners are a rip off and nobody should have them, and we should all be more educated, and people, and I'm like, but you don't understand that there are literally just people that are like, this stuff makes no sense to me and I
Well,
need someone to
also,
help
how
me.
many people have that extra time? Maybe if
Yeah,
that was your
exactly.
hobby or something, you know what I mean? But there you could spend entire days, researching, analyzing, putting a financial plan together. It is a
Yeah.
full-time job, 100%.
Hmm.
And if you're working on two other full-time jobs at the same time, suddenly you have three full-time jobs. It's just,
Yes.
I
And
don't
it's
know.
just it's like telling people that they're stupid for wanting to have someone help them with it was an interesting conversation, and I'm like, okay, this is not going to go over well with anybody in this room, and it didn't. But
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
the thing about it is that he did make a decent point. He said that the education is out there if we're willing to go get it. And like you said earlier in the conversation, you've done a lot of things to educate yourself, and so have I. And but I know that there are a lot of people who feel scared, overwhelmed, and like they just don't trust the information that they're getting from whatever sources.
That's true because there's so many different places for information now. We don't know which ones are reputable.
Yeah.
We don't want to just
Yeah.
go online and Joe Schmo said to try this one thing, and we're talking about people's livelihood. They don't
Yeah.
want to take big risks when they're talking about just their lives here. So it's tough to know who to trust when it comes to finances too.
Exactly. I mean, and you're talking about an issue that is make or break, life or death for people.
Oh yeah.
It really is. I mean, um this is not which phone company you should choose.
No.
This is your, as you said, your livelihood. So I mean, Coffee and I are not experts. We're not going
No.
to even come close to saying that we're experts. We're just going to share the information and things that we have learned, which is what we've done tonight. But you know, what I would want us to do as a community, as a group of people who are pretty much in the same boat in terms of interests and things that we relate to, is to share our knowledge bases and to share our experiences, and to try to lead by example. Like Coffee and I both pay off our credit cards at the end of the month, every month. We don't carry a balance on it. You know, like, I'm not here to brag about it. I'm just here to say this is what I learned, and this is what keeps me financially
The
solvent,
one
even
the
during
one thing I
the time.
always stress, that I always say, and if someone does this, they're already doing better than 90% of everyone else, is to get an IRA or a 401k early. Get it
Yes.
super early. A lot of people think they're young. They don't need that. That's not how it works. It has to build up. It has to accumulate over time. My
Yep.
my dad is in his 70s and he's still doing manual labor because he didn't
Hmm.
have a 401k. He's
Hmm.
probably going to work until the day he dies, and that is
Yeah.
super sad to see and watch. So I, I mean, you should the right now, if everyone doesn't have a 401k or an IRA, go make one right now and contribute like as little as like 3 to 5% a year to it. it
Yep.
would it would
Yeah.
be huge. It would be amazing.
It would change things, because that's the problem. I mean, I know people right now who kind of live hand to mouth, where it's not like they couldn't save money.
Hmm.
Trying very hard not to be judgmental here, but it's not like they couldn't save money. They make enough that they could save money, but they choose not to save money, and they spend it on frivolous things,
Yeah.
things that, that it's immediate gratification versus long-term planning. And honestly, that is us as a society for the most part. We are instant gratification. That is who we are as Americans. And it's like the thing, we see the thing, we want the thing, we buy the thing.
Right.
And
take my money.
I've really right. Take my money, throw my wallet at the screen, whatever that thing is that you say when you see something. And I've learned the power of being able to resist that siren call of something that's super cool that I want to get, and to save the money for it, to put it aside to buy it. Here's a great example of something. So like I saw this amazing lit up cherry blossom tree that's about 4 feet tall, and it's like the coolest thing I'd ever seen, and I wanted it bad. And I went up and I was like, how do I find this? I saw this at a home show when I was working. And I asked the guy, where'd you get it? And he said, I know a guy from China imports the thing, blah, 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 blah. I didn't tell me how he got it. So I went on eBay and I did a bunch of searching and I found it. $189 for this damn cherry blossom tree. And I was like, no, not right now. Not right now. And that, literally had to go and pause and say, do I need it? Because I'm like, I want it. Okay,
doesn't sound like you're very good at spending money on yourself either.
No, I am not. I am very much not. When it is time for me to upgrade my computer, I go through an agonizing process of how much money can I spend. I'm a freaking gamer. I spend so much freaking time on my computer. It's like the thing that is my primary source of entertainment. And I will agonize over that $1,000 or $1,200 that I'm going to spend on that computer.
The last thing I bought myself was the audio situation that you told me to buy. And I essentially rationalized it by saying, Jules told me to get this. So
oh, shit.
I have to get this now.
Blame me.
I mean, that's just how it works out in my head. It's like if I don't have a situation like that, I'll never buy something for myself. I just don't do it.
No, but it's something that will make sense if there's, here's an interesting scenario for financing. When things are kind of getting icky for me, I was trying to make it work. I had a part-time job working with, esports and that kind of thing. And I was going to be doing quite a bit of traveling, and I didn't have a laptop anymore. Mm-hmm. And I really wanted to get a MacBook because it has the ability to do the editing, audio editing on it. I use GarageBand for my audio editing, I admit it. And I've used it for years. That's what I use. And so I was like, well, if I can buy this $1,000 laptop, right? But then I found out that Apple has this program with their credit card that they offer where you can actually get 18 months of or 12 months of interest-free financing on it to pay it off. And I was like, well, heck, I've got a good credit score. Let's see if I can do this. And they was instant approval. Yeah. Now I can pay it off over time. Like, that's great. And I was able to get the laptop to be able to do the work and the traveling. Like, I had it for BlizzCon, and it was because I needed it. I worked with it, and it was great.
Yep.
And so, like, that's awesome. And I bought that. And then when I got my job, I was like, I still have the interest-free financing on the card. I still have some room on it. I want to upgrade my iPhone. So that's what I did.
There you go.
Like, here we go. So I'm paying it off over time because I can.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, because I'm carrying that balance, quote unquote, carrying that balance, dropped my credit score a little bit.
Dropped your credit score. Interesting.
It did. And so because I'm carrying a balance, even though there's no interest accruing on it, I still I think I lost 30 points on my credit score, which was a pretty big hit. To some extent,
though, all those depending on what what you run your number through, it just fluctuates. Like sometimes, like I've seen a credit score drop because not enough of the person's credit was being utilized. You know what I mean?
I know.
Like, it's just every little thing can. It's just that's another freaking annoying thing is credit scores, man. I don't know.
It is most annoying.
Here's the other thing I was gonna say that people should do when they're young. Honestly, is just get a credit card. Like start building credit early because you need it. You really do need it. And I remember early on in life when I was trying to purchase things, I had a great credit score. It was like 800 or so credit score, but it wasn't established enough.
Yes.
These accounts weren't open long enough for the credit score to have meaning. Great score, but still not able to get loans on things because the accounts were, younger than 3 years or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. I literally have that same issue sometimes. It's not bad anymore. But when I got divorced, I mean, I had an excellent credit score, but I didn't have things specifically in my name. And so this is going to go especially to the women out there who are in relationships. Make sure that you have a credit card open in just your name, just yours. At least just one of them, to establish credit and use it occasionally. Because even though you and your partner are doing things together, you still need to have your own credit. It's just you need to. So, yeah. So that is one thing. If you are a female, especially, don't let your credit score get affected by the fact that you just don't have established credit because you've been in a relationship for 10 years. So, yeah. And and I'm not saying like don't trust your partner. I'm saying just get yourself a credit history. Get yourself credit established. So it's a great point, Coffee, because we don't think about it. And it's scary when you think about like you don't come out of the womb with a credit score. Like you've got to go out there and establish it.
Yeah, and Wicked Kitten just mentioned. I wish some young people will abuse a credit card, but it's like our job to instill those values and lessons we've learned to teach them how to use a credit card as a tool for them, and instead of abuse that. And if you do, you will reap the rewards later on in life when you have these established credit scores and you can get loans and you can buy that house or that car or whatever the hell you want. You can get that MacBook, right?
You can get that MacBook, yes. So I love it. I love my MacBook.
Yeah,
it's awesome, and I love my new iPhone, which is more awesome.
Is it the MacBook with that touch bar at the top, the one that like lights
up? No, I didn't get the super fancy one. I got the step below it, because I have hard time spending money on myself. So
there you are.
That's why. So we've talked about this on previous shows. Like right now, I'm on this massive beast of a computer that was purchased by HeroesHearth for the production stuff that I'm going to be doing. I would never, ever purchase a computer like this for myself, ever. But this is a top-of-the-line gaming quality processor, PC, everything insane. And I don't know if I could ever bring myself to purchase something of that level. It's kind of crazy. And so I guess that's just my financial conservativeness. Like I am not a conservative in mindset on anything except finances.
I bet even with this massive, insanely, powerful beast of a computer, you would still crash and get disconnected in Apex Legends.
The salt is real.
I had to say it. That game is like, it's made by a AAA publisher. It's been out for how long? And there's just these random disconnects and crashing going on in it. And it just tilts me so hard.
Warren says, "Where is Dids right now?"
Oh, game just tilts me.
You get to see the salty coffee in action right now. I think that's gonna wrap up our discussion, and we went a little long tonight. We went a little long tonight, and we did some personal summary at the top of the show. So I think we're gonna skip the ending. Yeah, we'll save that for next week.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I think are we good to go with the other topic that I brought to you last week?
Sure.
Okay, so calling an audible again. Audience, you guys are going to have a special episode of the Jules and Coffee Hour next week. It's going to be called Ask Jules and Coffee. And literally you are going to provide us with the content. It can be anything. You can ask us. It's like an AMA for us, but you have to send them in to us. Or you can be here in the chat room and give it to us. So that's going to be podcast at HeroesHearth.com.
Literally an AMA. It could be what's your favorite color. It could be. In fact, I hope it's like silly stuff like that. I think it'll be fun.
Yeah. Yeah, like, if you were stranded on a desert island, what were the 3 things that you would have with you? Like, stuff like that.
Or Pepsi or Coke.
Or it could Pepsi or Coke. It could be this or that questions. It could literally be anything that you want. Just please don't make us, like, we'll veto it if it's going to get too risque or too controversial.
Whose butt is your favorite butt?
Ooh.
That's a tough one.
I got to think about that one. See, this is why we need them ahead of time, guys, because we do a little time to think about it.
We can think about it on the spot. A little added pressure. A little added pressure might be good.
I know. I would. Okay. Who's? We'll do a little one here. Whose butt is your favorite butt from Memorin?
Yeah.
Gosh. Liam Hemsworth.
Oof. Damn. I'm gonna say either Hillary Duff or maybe Charlize Theron.
Hillary Duff. You like her Duff?
God, I love Hillary Duff. God, I want to get all up in that Duff. Hey-o!
Hey-o! How you like them apples?
How do you like them, Duff?
I like that Duff. See, this is gonna be it'll be a fun episode of the Jules and Coffee Hour. We hope that you guys will send us questions because we really, if this goes well, we'll make it a regular rotation. Something just something fun for us to do and get to interact with you guys as well. So, podcast at HeroesHearth.com. You can jump to Coffee's Discord if you're in it and put that in the podcast channel. You can tweet us. I'm at Jules RPG. He's Coffee Club _TV. And yeah. Coffee likes Hillary's Duff. We should rename that next episode. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why there's a butts channel in Coffee's Discord.
I'm going to say that, right? I'm going to say Hillary Duff, and you're going to be like, all right, Coffee, let's unpack that a little bit. Right? Like,
I don't want to unpack anybody's butt. No.
You don't want to unpack that Duff?
Dead.
Dead.
I'm dead.
We killed Jules today. We killed Jules.
Oh, man. They call me Santa Jules for a reason.
Oh man.
Oh man. So this has all the makings of being a very fun, very funny episode. We hope you'll join us for that next week. Yeah. Anything before we play the music and zip on out of here?
I don't think so. I think I want to revise my answer though from earlier. You said, "Are you good with money?" I don't know that anyone's good with money, but I think as long as you're aware of money, it makes you make better choices. I think I'm aware of money. I think that's.
I would call you and I a responsible.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. I think it's fair to say we are responsible humans when it comes to money.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. Responsible money human. I like that one too.
Responsible money human. We all have butts after all.
Thank God for that. Yeah. And so with that, I think it's time for us to zip on out of here. Like I said, so we're gonna play this lovely music, this very pretty music. Here you go. You want to contact the show, you can email us at podcast@heroeshearth.com. If you want to connect with us on Twitter, you can find me at JulesRPG. Why am I reading my other stuff?
You can. We can mix it up today.
I don't know why I'm just mixing it up today. I just realized what I was doing.
I'll read the next part. It's fine.
Okay. I'm Jules RPG. He's Coffee Club _TV. You can also use those handles to follow our personal streams on Twitch as well and get notified when we go live.
You can join us for the live broadcast at twitch.tv/HeroesHearth on Mondays at 6 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Pacific, or find us in podcast form on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Podcasts, TuneIn, and more.
Tuesdays, actually, because I forgot to change the sheet. Sorry.
I got to be honest with you. We might have to change that next week for work travel, but I'll update that.
That's fine.
Yeah.
No worries. We can talk about it too. Okay. And if you like this show and you'd like to support the great entertainment that's brought to you by Heroes Hearth, the amazing people at Heroes Hearth, please consider supporting them on Patreon. It goes towards helping us as well. It's patreon.com/HeroesHearth.
Thank you, everybody, sincerely from the bottom of our hearts for joining us today. We love you all. And until next time, we're glad you're here.
We're glad. glad you're here.